On August 27, 1967, a group of skydivers faced a tragedy that changed the sport forever. Before we dive into what happened, it's important to mention Marion Lee Doherty, along with 9 others who were supposed to jump that day but didn't, and this twist of fate saved their lives. We'll get back to their story later. Imagine an exciting day turning into one of the darkest moments in skydiving history. A group of 30 skydivers, all geared up with anticipation, gathered at Ortner Airport in Wakeman, Ohio. They were there for a once-in-a-lifetime chance to jump from a B-25 Mitchell bomber, a plane that had seen the battles of World War II. This wasn't just any jump. It was a gesture of gratitude from the bomber's owner and pilot Bob Carnes to the skydiving community, offering a free jump from a B-25 Mitchell bomber. Skydivers from across Ohio, filled with weeks of anticipation, had come to take part. They were ready for adventure, but little did they know, a tragic twist of fate awaited them. As 30 skydivers attempted to load the plane, it became clear that not everyone could go. The aircraft, not modified for skydiving, tipped towards the back under their weight. So the decision was made to take only the 20 most experienced skydivers, leaving the least experienced behind, which left 10 jumpers very disappointed. Little did they know the pilot's decision would ultimately spare their lives. However, the jump had to be delayed due to thick morning cloud cover. By late afternoon, the plane finally took off. Among the chosen were men and 1 woman, all with significant skydiving experience, some even with over 200 jumps, including over-water jumps. They all signed waivers acknowledging the risks, but none could have predicted the events that were about to unfold. The plan was for 18 divers to leap from 20,000 feet and 2 more from an even higher altitude of 30,000 feet, all aiming to land near Ortner Airport. At around the same time, a spectator, Ted Murphy, who owned and piloted a Cessna 180 Skywagon, decided to fly up to 12,000 feet and take photos of the descending skydivers. He was accompanied by a parachutist who had intended to jump from the B-25, but had changed his mind due to the overcrowding. The two took off shortly after the B-25 and Ted's Cessna. In the meantime, due to the lack of insulation and heating in the B-25, it was getting very cold, so many of the skydivers put on additional layers of insulated clothing over their jumpsuits. Flying high above the clouds, the pilot, Bob Carnes, who was flying the B-25, found himself in a bind. The ground was hidden beneath a thick blanket of clouds, making it impossible to verify their position visually, so he reached out to the Cleveland Air Route Traffic Control Center for guidance. However, there was a limitation with Bob's equipment on board the B-25. It allowed him to either communicate with the control center or use the VOR, which stands for VHF Omnidirectional Range System, for navigation, but not both simultaneously. This critical piece of information wasn't shared with the air traffic controller. At an altitude of 20,000 feet, Bob requested directions based on the VOR signals to guide him over Ortner Airport, aiming for a precise jump location. However, as they ascended, the team at Cleveland Center underwent a shift change, introducing Angel Smith as the new controller. In a crucial error, Smith confused the position of a Cessna, flown by Ted for aerial photography of the jump, with Bob's B-25 on the radar screen. As a result, Smith provided Bob with navigation instructions meant for Ted. This misinformation led Bob to believe he was positioned safely over Ortner Airport for the jump. In reality, the B-25 had drifted significantly off course, hovering over Lake Erie, miles away from the intended drop zone near Ortner Airport. Reacting to the instructions based on this mistaken identity, Bob reduced the B-25's speed from 145 miles per hour to 105 miles per hour and proceeded to open the bomb bay doors, readying the skydivers for their descent. This error in communication and navigation set the stage for the tragic events that would follow. The first 18 skydivers were all set for an exhilarating free fall, planning to perform maneuvers in close formation. To achieve this, they had to exit the plane almost at the same time, ensuring they stayed close enough to each other while maintaining a safe distance. On the pilot's signal, they leaped from the aircraft within a span of 30 seconds, each one ready to showcase their aerial skills. However, as they began their descent, they were immediately enveloped by a thick layer of clouds, which significantly reduced their visibility. The skydivers had been seated in the bomb bay area, a semi-enclosed space that made it difficult to get a good look at the conditions below them before jumping. Their plan had been to free fall until they reached about 2,500 feet, where they would then deploy their parachutes, aiming to land gracefully over Ortner Airfield. But as they continued to plummet through the cloud cover, completely unaware of their actual location, a separate Cessna plane was in the air trying to spot them, assuming the B-25 was still within the vicinity. It wasn't until the skydivers broke through the cloud layer at around 4,000 feet that the harsh reality hit them. They were about 4 miles off the shore, far from their intended landing spot. With mere minutes left before they would hit the water, they found themselves at a critical juncture where quick, decisive action was needed. In a frantic attempt to lighten their load and improve their chances of a safer landing, they began to discard their boots, heavy clothing, and any other non-buoyant items. This urgent preparation was crucial as they braced for an unplanned water landing, a situation far from what they had envisioned for their jump that day. Amidst this turmoil, Bernard Johnson and Robert Coy were fighting for their lives in the cold waters of Lake Erie. They frantically worked to shed their heavy gear, which threatened to pull them under. As hope began to fade, and they struggled against the waves, a miraculous sight appeared, a private fishing boat cutting through the water towards them. In a race against time, they were rescued, just moments from succumbing to the lake's depths. Unfortunately, the other 16 skydivers couldn't remove their heavy gear in time. They were dragged underwater before any rescue boat could reach them, which is deeply tragic. Their bodies weren't recovered until several days later. Bernard and Robert emerged as the sole survivors of this heartbreaking incident thanks to the timely rescue of the fishing boat's crew. Before we delve into the consequences of this accident, imagine being one of the 10 skydivers who didn't end up jumping on that fateful day. Initially, they felt disappointment, but as the tragic events unfolded, those feelings shifted to a profound sense of relief mixed with survivors' guilt. Knowing they were spared from the disaster that claimed their fellow skydivers brought complex emotions, including deep gratitude for their own safety, yet also mourning for the lives lost. Marion Lee Doherty was one of the 10 who didn't end up jumping. He had learned about a free jump being offered through an underground parachuting magazine and arrived that day with 30 other parachutists. He later expressed his gratitude, saying, "I thank the Lord for sparing me that day and letting me stay around for a while. I just felt lucky, very fortunate, and very thankful that I didn't get on that airplane." Even though he was aware of the risks of jumping on an overcast day, he admitted he would have still jumped if he hadn't been bumped off the plane. In the wake of this heart-wrenching tragedy that gripped the world, an exhaustive investigation was launched to unearth the root causes of the accident. Here's what was discovered. A critical moment of confusion arose due to a shift change in air traffic control. This pivotal switch led to a grave miscommunication. The new controller on duty, unfortunately, mixed up the B-25 bomber carrying the eager skydivers with a Cessna that was in the sky to photograph the event. This mix-up had dire consequences. The B-25 pilots, misled by this confusion, believed they were correctly positioned over the designated airfield. However, in a chilling twist of fate, they were actually flying over the cold waters of Lake Erie. Adding to the tragedy, it was found that the jump violated key safety protocols. The skydivers leaped without a clear view of their landing zone below, a fundamental breach of skydiving safety measures. This critical oversight meant the skydivers plunged into the unknown, only realizing the grim reality as they broke through the cloud cover too late. The aftermath of this tragedy spurred profound changes within the skydiving community. Regulations were swiftly amended, introducing stringent new rules that mandated skydivers to be at least 50 miles away from large bodies of water unless equipped with survival gear. This was a direct response to ensure skydivers were better protected against the unforeseen. Moreover, the investigation's findings placed the onus of responsibility on the Federal Aviation Authority, leading to the permanent suspension of the B-25 pilot's license. Through these measures, the skydiving community sought not only to honor the memory of those who perished, but also to fortify the sport against such tragedies in the future. In a poignant tribute to those lost, skydivers began making deliberate jumps into Lake Erie, armed with flotation devices, underscoring the paramount importance of preparedness. If you enjoyed my account of what happened, I know you will enjoy other true event stories such as this one on the end screen. Please subscribe and like, that would be very much appreciated. Until next time, bye for now.